What is face reading?
So face reading is the study of how to understand other people based on their resting facial features. So there's 43 muscles in the face. The mind creates movement, movement creates muscle. So what happens is we have those thoughts, we keep making faces. Well, just like the rest of our body, as you make that continuous movement, the structure of your face will change. The stronger the jaw, the more stubborn they are. So it's like latching onto this table here. Once they bite in, it's hard to get them to unlatch something.
Ooh.
The larger nostrils, the more they think in terms of abundance. The smaller the nostril, the more they think in terms of scarcity. So if you're, say, for example, selling someone, and you're wondering, like, how did you ever pick your nose because a finger would never fit there, right? It's that small. Then those are people who think in terms of scarcity. So you have to make sure that their base is covered, and then they're free to expand. So the smaller the nostril, I have to cover the scarcity first, and then with larger nostrils, you can move towards abundance.
Fascinating.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast. And oh my gosh, today you guys are in for a real treat. First, before we get started, I want to shout out the amazing folks right here at the video podcast studio in Las Vegas. They saved us. No room at the inn at the Venetian where we normally are filming. And so the fine folks here at the video podcast studio, they came through, and we're so very grateful for their help. And my guy, Greg, who's running all of the cameras and making us sound so good. Shout out to Greg for putting this all together for us and making your experience as seamless as possible. Listen, today we have an amazing guest that we have been so fortunate to know for a little bit of time. I was going to say quite some time, but it's not.
How many years
quite
now? Maybe
2021.
I was going to say
just
4.
did this where you said
4
don't say.
years.
You just literally said on the last thing we did, don't say I don't know and then guess.
I can say the years. You can't say the years because you're all. You probably tell people
4
we were
years.
together. We've been together for 7 years, and
4
we've been
years,
together
okay.
for like 16. So.
Well, guess who it is, folks? Brian Galke. Listen, let's just clear this up for everybody.
Yeah,
for
we gotta
all
clear this up.
all of you who think his name is Galke, just like make a mental note. You say it gal key, like a
woman.
female,
Holding a key.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Galke. Brian Galke. He is a physiognomy. Did they say that
Sorry.
right?
Say
Physiognomy, close, yeah.
Physiognomy
Physiognomy, yes.
expert.
Right.
And listen, one, it's kind of
Okay,
cool.
hold on though. I was going to say, as many times as we've worked with you, interviewed you, had you on our stage,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard that terminology.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Is
like
this a
that.
new thing
Somebody
you're
looked it
talking
up.
about?
No, that's what it's based on. So face reading, I call it decoding faces because
Yeah.
as soon as you say face reading, people are like, ooh, can you read palms? I'm like, no. I can't. So just like instead of saying I'm a cashier, you say I'm a financial transaction specialist. It's the same thing, right? So it's face reading, but I call it decoding facial
Yeah.
features because decoding, people
Yeah.
are kind of interested. They want to pay attention. But the skill is, and it's not a science, is called physiognomy. And it goes all the way back to the Greeks. Aristotle wrote the first book on it. And it's been studied since this time. And if it wasn't for Henry VIII, we would all know it because it was part of the academic system. It was taught in colleges and universities back in the day. And Henry VIII said, I don't like the idea that beggars and vagabonds can use this against their fellow man. And he yanked it out.
Wow.
Right, so face reading, first of all.
Yeah.
Decoding faces.
Decoding faces.
Yeah.
But oftentimes that seems kind of like a party trick. And in a sense,
absolutely.
it can be. I mean, why
Yes.
not? It can.
Hey,
it's
we
a
all
great
have
icebreaker.
we all should have a good party trick,
That's right.
but this is a great business
but there,
trick.
I want to make sure that we understand there are so many practical applications, especially for entrepreneurs. And I want to make sure that we cover that today. But first, I just have to know, like, first of all, well, why don't I just let you, the expert, tell us what is face reading?
Sure. So face reading, aka physiognomy, which nobody's ever brought that up on a podcast, so I love that, is the study of how to understand other people based on their resting facial features. So there's 43 muscles in the face. The mind creates movement, movement creates muscle. So what happens is we have those thoughts, we keep making faces. Well, just like the rest of our body, as you make that continuous movement, the structure of your face will change. So in my presentations now, I show a picture of me at 18 versus 38. And I used to have straight eyebrows instead of angled eyebrows. My ears used to stick out more. Our faces are constantly changing all the time. And that's like when we, on a morbid note, if you go to an open casket funeral, we don't recognize the person in the box because all that muscle tension is gone. And people go, that can't be true. Have you ever met somebody who had a stroke? What happens?
Right.
One part of the brain, so if it's left brain, it affects the right side of the face. Right side affects left side of the face. So the brain's constantly controlling those 43 muscles in the face. And those thoughts tell you how do people take in and process information.
Fascinating. That was my question.
What
I
was your
wondered
question?
if it was just like, I was like, how can it be that you were born and all of these
A miracle?
all of these characteristics were programmed in your face? So that
Right.
that was the answer that I was looking for. That it just happens. It can change.
But this is
even.
really interesting because I think, and I actually have questions around this.
Sure.
So we've got James, our producer over here, and he's always snapping photos of me and snapping photos of Sean.
Yeah.
And Sean speaks far less with his face than I do.
Right.
I am so animated. Like literally every photo they capture of me is
Yeah.
like it's the worst. Like you cannot get a good photo of me because
Right.
my facial movements are very, very extreme.
Yes.
Is there a difference in people that utilize their face more than others? Like, is that something? Is that telling for something?
It's not telling, but people trust when they see more emotion. Kind of like if you're a speaker.
I am more trusting.
That's right. If you know,
No, you're saying people trust you, right?
Yeah,
You're
that's
saying
what I
people
said.
trust
That's what
her.
I'm saying. I'm
Because,
more trusting.
Like there's different things that we can do when we show our palms. It's nothing that people trust us. So you guys know Renee Rodriguez.
Yeah.
The zone of influence is in here. When you keep your hands in that area, we trust people who use their hands more. It's the same thing with their faces. So if we did the whole podcast like this, then it
Right.
wouldn't be nearly as fun as if you make faces at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are expressive, people learn to trust you more than are you hiding something.
Right.
And we talked about this before. Sean has a small mouth. So that's one of the things of he doesn't talk until you know what you're going to talk about and when to jump in. So you're more calculated when you talk. You're more of a conversationalist. And that's why you have a smaller mouth for the size of your face.
There you go. See, it's getting interesting. Like before we jump into that kind of stuff, I want to know how did you first of all learn all of this? Because this is one of the things, like, you know, you have a social media presence, you speak all over the world, you're on so many interviews, podcasts, people can hear, and then this is what always happens. People are like, well, that's you.
Yes.
This is because you're so smart. Like you must have went to school for this. So one, how did you become an expert at this? And then two, like, how can I take some of what you have learned and apply that? But first, how do you become who you are?
Fluke circumstance. A friend came in from out of town. She said, hey, let's go to dinner. I show up at the restaurant. I order a drink. Then she calls back and says, hey, I'm not going to make it. I'm like, okay, why? She's like, you need to come meet this speaker. Why do I need to come meet this guy? She goes, because he reads faces. And I go, yeah, I'm not going for that bullshit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss.
No, you can definitely
I'm
cuss.
like, I'm not going for that bullshit. And she's like, please, come on. I'm in from out of town. I go, okay. But I had a plan. I thought this guy ruined my dinner plan, so I'm going to go prove he's a fraud. And I'm going to go and just blow holes in this guy. Because I have an entire library full of body language books, how to win friends and influence people. Because I'm an
So
introvert.
you were already doing this.
Yes, because I'm an introvert. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I missed that day at class where they taught everybody how to get along. So I actually had to study people. And being an introverted extrovert, meaning I love to be around people, but I'm terrified of people at the same time,
Right.
confuses people because people think because you're out, you're comfortable. But there's a lot of times where I felt like I was in the prison of my own mind in a public setting. Even though, so I'm out and around people, I felt alone. And so I was always looking at what's their body language, what are they doing, because it helped me feel comfortable at the time. And then, but I'd never heard of face reading. And as soon as you hear reading, again,
Right.
you read palms, let's bring out the crystal ball or the crystals and, kumbaya and everything else. So I thought, this guy ruined my dinner plan, so I'm going to go prove he's a fraud. And his name is Mac Fulfer. I still meet with him once a month. I live in Dallas, Texas. I drive to Fort Worth and we go have dinner and lunch. And I went, and I thought, all right, here we go. I'm going to get this guy, right? And he sat us all down at dinner and he went person by person and he started describing them based on their facial features. And I was listening, like, is he going to say the same thing twice, but their faces are different? I couldn't catch the guy. And then he got to me and I'm like, this guy's been digging through my trash.
Yeah.
It was almost unnerving how much he could tell you about you. So it's not like, how many brothers and sisters do you have or where
Right.
did you grow up? But it's, how do you take in information? How do you process information? Do you like talking about yourself? Are you good with criticism or not? All these things are visible on our face. And I was like, damn it, this guy's got me. So I bought his book. It's anybody can get it on Amazon. It's called The Power of Face Reading. And I would drive from Dallas to Fort Worth twice a month to do group training. And I was an introvert on the help desk, but when I'm focused on you, I'm not thinking about me. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I kept getting a promotion and I'd get another promotion. People couldn't figure out what I was doing. And what I was doing is I was figuring out, how do you make the presentation about the person instead of pitch your product?
Right.
So when we would answer government proposals, so RFP, requests for proposals, and when we were answering back, I had amazing RFP writers, but I would also go and add auditory language, visual language, and kinesthetic language. So do you see what I'm saying? Does that sound like a good idea? Once we get moving on the project, all these things because you don't know who's reading the documents. And I wasn't telling people what we were doing, but we would win more. And when we were doing presentations, when we walked in, a lot of times it was a blind evaluation committee. But by looking at people, I know who needs more time, who needs less time. So eyebrow height tells you how much time somebody needs to make a decision. Yours are very low, yours a little higher. Not much higher, but higher eyebrow people is who I'd start talking to in the room, and I'd work my way down to the low people. Or if we walked in, everybody had very low eyebrows. Oh crap, we have 45 slides, we need to cut down to 15 slides.
Right.
So we would adjust to the person instead of just show up and pitch our product.
It's just so fascinating. I was just thinking too, so you've been doing this work now for how many years then?
I met him in
When was
2011.
That was 2011.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've been able to take the process and simplify it more for people? Because
Yes.
I've looked at that book and I've read through that book, and it's a lot of content, a lot of information. It's super
Yes.
valuable. But when I listen to you, I feel like I connect with the content so much more because of the real life application and examples you
Yeah.
get. So tell us how you've evolved the process.
Sure. I made it simple, and that's what I'm good at. If there was anything, I was on the help desk because I could understand things and explain it to other people. Then I became a sales engineer. Then I became the salesperson. And what made me successful was being able to take complex things and simplify it. So whereas he had curved eyebrows, well, that doesn't help me remember it. But if I tell you rounded eyebrows, think about the people around them. It's like a mnemonic that you can create. So I'm good at just making up crap on the fly that sticks. Right? Like it's just. That's how my brain works. I was raised in the day and age of Dr. Seuss. If things rhyme and they work, people remember them.
Yeah.
So he has just angled eyebrow. Well, if I say, hey, angled eyebrows are what's my angle, help me understand it, then you can remember it when you see it on people. That's what I've been able to do. So I'm actually done writing the book. It's in his hands to look at and kind of work with me on it. And we're having a little bit of a disagreement because he wants to talk about right brain versus left brain and go too complex, I think, on the first book.
Yep.
So now the goal is to write 3 books. So Decoding the Face will be a beginner book, an intermediate, and advanced.
Yep.
Because just like body language, you have to make it simple so people will try it. Then you can come up with other books as well.
Right, and you have to build the foundational knowledge before
Yes.
you get too in the weeds, right? With the neurology and the brain and how things
Yes.
function. I mean, people
Yeah.
aren't ready for that yet, right? Yeah.
That's exactly
I
it.
love that.
And knowing this is complex, but give me the 30,000 foot view of like what are you doing when you're reading
Read
somebody's
my face.
Yeah, so I always start with eyebrows because you can see eyebrows across the room. But the reason I teach eyebrows is because eyebrows lead to eye contact. So even if you're nervous, you're getting credit for looking people in the eye.
I'm trying to read your eyebrows.
Exactly.
Got it.
So that's why I start with eyebrows. So I go eyebrow height first, then eyebrow shape. After that, I go to upper eyelid. Then I look at eye angle. Then I'll go down to upper lip. And then I'll look at chin and jaw. And why for all those? Eyebrow height tells you how long does it take before they make a decision. Eyebrow shape is, there's 3 basics, but there's a lot more. But the basics are straight eyebrows, get straight to the point. Facts, figures, data. That's why you have straight eyebrows. Angled eyebrows, like we have, are what's my angle, help me understand it, then I can help other people. And then rounded eyebrow people think about the people around them first, themselves second. So like I flew here, what's the message on the plane? In the event of emergency, please put on your own mask before the mask of others.
That's the rounded eyebrow.
That's for rounded eyebrow people, exactly. Because if not, they'll help everyone else until then they're out.
Yeah.
Then I go to upper eyelid. Why? Upper eyelid, if you've ever read the 5 love languages, upper eyelid is intimacy requirements like time and attention. So people with a fuller eyelid want more time. They're we people versus me people. So for example, when I was married, my ex had fuller eyelids and I have thinner ones. So I would go like, okay, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that. I would need to remember to invite her to do things because I didn't have an eyelid, but she did. So if
when you say eyelid, what are we talking about? Like the
width.
Because some people are hooded,
fuller.
eyelid, like a hooded eyelid means
Yes.
my width is actually smaller, right?
So that's if your eye puff is hanging down. So I'm talking about this part of your eye, the upper eyelid. It's what they call Bambi eyelids.
So you're trying to catch it like when they blink.
No, just when they're staring at you
when
now.
I see. The distance from where the crease is almost to the eyelashes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if somebody had like here and it was fuller, that'd be wide like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are we people. People who don't have a lot of eyelid. You don't have a lot of eyelid. So you're fine doing things by yourself.
Yeah.
And people have to remember to either ask, say, hey, take me along, or every once in a while you have to pause and go, oh, I should invite people to go with me.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's where I look for eyelid. Eye angle, this one's fascinating. If you go back and look at the picture, and I'll send it to you guys so you have it, of me at 18 versus 38. At 18, my eyes angled down quite a bit. So eye angles tell you how do people want information to be delivered. If their eyes going from the inside here to the outside, if they angle up, they want to hear about the upside. Tell me about your features, your benefits. If they're even, tell me about both the pros and the cons. If their eyes angled down, they're worried about the downside of things. So it's not a negative Nancy, but it's, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, have you thought about that? My eyes angled down because I was raised in an environment that said, hey, go for what you want, but things don't always work out. What's your backup plan? Then what's your other backup plan? And what happened is as I became more successful in personally and professional life, my eyes angled up. Then I went through divorce and I got fired. My eyes angled down again. So I can show you pictures where our faces are constantly changing. And they're
Is that
right.
because of how much you smile?
No, because of what we think and the faces we make. We squint and
yeah.
we raise. But like a very, very simple one, and I'm kind of going out of order now, but we were getting ready to go to lips anyway, is when somebody has been in either a relationship they hate or a job they hate for too long, what do? They frown. What happens over time? Their mouth becomes downturned. Then they'll leave that relationship or they'll leave that job and they start smiling again. And what happens when we see them? We go, you look like a brand new person.
Yeah.
It's because they start smiling.
That's awesome.
And so our faces are constantly changing all the time. So just because you look away today doesn't mean that's the way you're going to look 6 months from now, 6 years from now. It's constantly changing. Just like any other muscle in our body, the more it's used or it atrophies, changes the shape and structure of it.
Do Lacey and I have the same eye angle?
Let me see. Hers angle up slightly. Yours are more even.
Okay.
So you're more the pros and cons. She wants to hear more about the upside.
The
So you just,
upside.
if you were to take, and we'll use my phone, a business card and just go, would it angle up, even, or angle down?
Yep.
Then you know how to present the information. So because
What are you trying to get at? This is a
Well,
real.
this is what he's been processing through.
I'm just kidding.
We did eyebrows. We both have the same eyelid, I think, and then
We
a little bit
probably are
different
both.
on the.
I feel like we might have the same eyelid.
And
so
then the
eyelids
eyes
are
Yeah.
pretty much the same. Yours is a little bit fuller on your personal side. Actually, you're kind of fascinating. So on
Thank you.
your personal side, which is this side,
Yeah.
and then we have our professional side. It's the same for everyone. It doesn't matter male, female, left-handed, right-handed. It's about right brain, left brain.
Yep.
So an easy way to remember that, if I say, hey, are you married? It's a personal question. Where would a wedding ring be?
Yeah,
This
left
hand.
hand.
This is the personal side. You have fuller lids on your personal side and thinner lids on your professional side. So at home, you're more of a we person, but at work, you're fine with no eyelid, just doing whatever you want to do.
That's fair.
Yeah. So you'll meet people and where we'll say, hey, I'm a different person at work than I am at home.
Yep.
It's true and it's on our faces.
Wow.
Yeah.
So lips.
So lips, yeah. So you both have a good upper lip, which means ask you personal stuff. Don't keep it strictly transactional. One thing that you both have that's interesting, because not usually both people have it, is that little arrow right here in your upper
Yeah.
lip.
Cupid's bow, is that what they
Cupid's
call
bow.
it?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. So Cupid's bow, it's like a subconscious sign telling people, listen to me when I talk. And if you don't think that lips really matter, if I just talk like this and you can't see my lips,
Yeah.
right? That's why my daughter was 2 when we all couldn't leave our houses and masks were everywhere. Her growth was stunted. Her growth was stunted.
Yeah. We got you.
I
know?
swear I've
My
only had
brain-
coffee. I've only
My
had
brain
coffee.
processed
Yeah.
that, just so you know,
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
Because her teachers were trying to teach her words like this.
Right.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
we're natural lip readers.
Yeah.
That's why if you've ever watched a movie and the soundtrack is off of when
Yeah.
Yes.
I
You can't watch it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the whole thing, is we learn because we heard the words that other people made. We wanted to make those same things. So what do? We watch the lips to try
Right.
and mimic it. And so,
Okay.
yeah, so it took my daughter a little bit longer, just like all other kids, because for that period of time, they couldn't see their teacher's lips to learn language.
Yeah, so wild.
So Cupid's bow means I want people to listen to me.
When you
Is that-
talk, people subconsciously pay attention because it's like a little arrow
Oh, I see.
saying,
Oh.
listen to my words.
Watch my
Okay.
mouth.
Yeah, watch my
Very
mouth.
good.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to jump in with one
Yeah.
that you have that's going to help you. Okay.
Okay.
So when she smiles, see how she has this little line below her nose and above her lip?
Yes.
So that's called a forced smile line. And what that is that's somebody who has always been told, always have a smile on your face, no matter what. So what that means is you have to double check when she smiles. Is it her default smile or is it her real smile?
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
I
you see it
that.
now?
Yeah. I see.
She's like, he gave away my secrets,
Yes.
damn it.
I love it.
Always happy on the outside.
That's right.
Is there anything else we need to know about lips?
So no, you both have good upper lips, good lower lips. She's got a little bit of this little line right here, which is called a words of affirmation line. So that is sincere verbal compliments go a long way.
Huge.
Now, I'm going to add one thing to that. If you look at Lacey, she has larger ears compared to eyes. So she's an auditory person who's then kinesthetic. And so when you say thank you, it helps feed that little line right here. So in the 5 love languages, words of affirmation are big to you because
Number
and
one.
that little line
Yep.
does it. So every time you see that line, sincere verbal compliment, not hey, thanks. thank you for this specific thing goes a long way with Lacey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then we look at jaw.
Yeah, jaw is the stronger the jaw, the more stubborn they are. So it's like latching onto this table here. Once they bite in, it's hard to get them to unlatch something. So if they've got a really strong jaw, you have one shot to win them over. If you don't do it, you've got a tough road ahead of you to get them to open and unleash that bite.
How are you judging that? Is it
Like
the line?
jaw
Yeah,
line
like if it has
or
that
muscle?
that line, that like
That line.
square jaw that's right here. Yeah. How strong is it here? What's really interesting is if you look at older people that were CEOs, politicians, you name it, not only do they have a strong jaw, but they have that little like fleshy area that hangs
Yeah.
out here. Those are called power pouches. And that is where somebody had to grit and hold on to it while they were taking one on the chin at the same time. Not literally, but metaphorically. And that's what creates those. So you'll see them on politicians, CEOs who
Yeah.
had to make really tough decisions for the greater good and really latch into that.
So we're going to put
Wait,
this
why did we
on-
skip
oh.
noses?
Oh yeah, sorry, we did skip because it wasn't something. Your initial question was, do I look at noses?
Oh, you don't look at
I will look
noses.
at nostrils. Now this is the reason why. The larger nostrils, the more they think in terms of abundance. The smaller the nostril, the more they think in terms of scarcity. So if you're, say, for example, selling someone, and you're wondering, like, how did you ever pick your nose because a finger would never fit there? Right, it's that small. Then those are people who think in terms of scarcity. So you have to make sure their base is covered, and then they're free to expand.
Right.
On the opposite side, if somebody has large nostrils, then they're more abundant. Because why? If I say, go ahead, take a deep breath, everybody goes, well, if you can't get air in there, what do you start thinking? Okay,
Yeah.
I've only got so much. So nostril size will tell you how willing are they to like jump onto things. So the smaller the nostril, I have to cover the scarcity first, and then with larger nostrils, you can move towards abundance.
Fascinating.
Now, there's more to noses too, but unless you see somebody from a side profile, I can't see the shape of it.
Right.
Now, I have what's known as a Romanesque nose. You kind of have it as well. So it's this well-defined ridge in a nose. Those are people who push for what they want, but it's not a full sprint ahead. It's just a steady push. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. So all these things about our faces change.
That's fascinating. Now, we've done work with you before. You've
Right.
spoken to at our events, spoken to our people. We believe in this. You're on our podcast. Now other people are hearing about
Right.
it. We're going to put you to the test.
Sure.
We have a brand new assistant, new to our team. So even the information that you say,
Yes.
we won't even know it, right?
Right.
We don't. He's not been with us that long.
It's a couple
You
weeks.
don't even know who this is, so people can't say like, "Wow," because
I researched
seen
him.
before.
Yeah, or
seen
you've read him before.
So we want to bring our assistant Gabe over here, and we're going to have you read
Move my
him,
coffee, so-
and we're going to have Gabe tell us whether or not this stuff works. Let's see. Walk us through kind of what you're seeing.
Yeah, I'm going to point at my own face, but while we talk about yours. And the whole reason for that is this is really unnerving to do to someone. So if anybody's going to learn this material, that's the most important thing is
Oh, good.
when you're talking about somebody else's face, you point to your own.
Yes.
And I learned that because I love my mentor to death. He sat us down in the middle and on the chair and he pointed our faces at first. And then he explained, oh, no, when you point at your own face, the people see it. Because not only that, they're understanding. So you get to see what I'm pointing at, but you know it's on your face. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we talked earlier about the 3 types of eyebrows, just so you guys can play along and you will know this. What shape eyebrows does he have?
Ooh, gonna go flat and then.
Well, see, they're more straight. So go ahead and leave it down. Like, see how mine has the like 45-degree angle?
You can see the
That's-
point. Mine have the point.
Yeah.
You have the
His
point.
are like
His are more straight.
Straight,
So he's
okay.
gets straight to the point. Facts, figures, data.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that you both have in common, and he's going to have to pull his hair back a little bit. Go ahead and look at what you can do for that. Oh, look at that.
receding.
Look, I can't do that. There you go. So you both have a brow ridge right here. So brow ridge is a process-driven person. So you can't just say, go do this. Give him the steps that he needs to do, and then he will accomplish the task. No problem. But he wants to know every step in the process. Just like you have a brow ridge here, you're also process-driven. Then, so we talked about the fuller eyelids. Look at his eyelids compared to y'all's. See, so he's more of a we person than he is a me person. So that's the fuller eyelid. Now, we talked a little bit earlier. So he's got, it's kind of hard to tell what he is because he has 3 large features. He's got large eyes and large ears, and he's got the kinesthetic right here. So for him, I really can't tell that there's one that goes above the others, except for, I'm going to say the eyes are slightly larger, so he'd be more of a visual learner. But he's fast on auditory and kinesthetic as well. So let him see the picture of it, send him a video, those types of things. Then he'll figure it out. Now, we talked about smaller nostrils. He's got smaller nostrils, right? So that is the help him cover his bases first, then he's free to expand. But if you throw something wild at him that seems like a large task, it's overwhelming. Is that fair?
This is 120%.
We talked about the strong jaw. So look, he's got the strong jaw that's there also. Now, what we didn't talk about, and I'll just go kind of from top to bottom. He has something really unique that not a lot of the people in the room here have. See how he has that little line in his nose right here?
Yeah.
That's called the niche notch. So that is
the niche notch.
Niche notch.
Okay.
If he doesn't identify with his job, he can't take it. It doesn't matter title or pay. His job is part of who he is and his identity. If not, he will job hop until he feels like it's a part of who he is, like integration.
This is scary. This is scary.
Yeah. And then we'll have you just do this again. So go like this with your hair and then raise your eyebrows up and squint down. Okay, so he's got 2 lines right there. Actually, he's got a little more than 2, if you can see. So that's perfectionist-like tendency. So one of the things that holds him back is he wants everything to be perfect all the time. So there's usually 3 different types. There's if they have 1 line.
I think I have one.
Yeah, so
The one that's really deep, though.
That's the freight train line. Once you make up your mind to do something, you run full steam ahead.
Yeah.
And then if you have 2 lines, that's extreme forced focus. So we're constantly thinking while we're doing it. That's what creates the 2. And if you have more than 2, then it's the perfectionist-like tendencies like he's got. And then, like I said,
awesome.
Ears kind of stick out a little bit. So ears are like wind drag on a plane. The more they stick out, the more you push back and you don't go with the flow. So don't tell me exactly how to do it. Give me the guardrails and let me figure out how to do it. And then, yeah.
This
He has a little bit of that. He has a little bit of that Cupid's
Oh, he's
bow,
definitely
right?
got the
He's
Cupid's
got
bow,
the
yeah.
Cupid's bow
Cupid's
just
bow.
hidden by the stash.
And
Tell
that's
us about the
I was
mustache.
going to say that. That's
Oh,
actually a good
yes.
point. Is you should trim it so that they can see that Cupid's bow all the time. Like that's one of the things I always tell.
Because you don't have that.
I have it a little bit, but you can't really see it.
Yeah, you got
as
it hiding
much.
under the-
Yeah.
yeah.
So I actually should have trimmed that before I left. But I have thinner upper lips. Since I met you guys through Steve Sims.
Yep.
The way that I met Steve was he was on a podcast and he had his mustache growing over his lip. And on the podcast, Joe Ingram said, "You have anything to say to Steve?" And I said, "Yeah, Steve, if you want to be seen as more approachable, you need to trim that upper mustache because when you're hiding your lip, we don't know how to interact with you." And Steve's answer, typical Steve, was like,
Yeah.
"You think I care?" I'm like, "Okay, then F you too." But I reached back out to him and I sent him a PowerPoint. I'm like, "This is the reason why you want people to see your lip. Go look at his LinkedIn profile now. Shaves it."
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So,
awesome.
Yeah. So you were asking like practical applications. I was using it for sales and sales was the ultimate benefit, but I was learning it to build relationships with my customers or prospects. And the whole thing is we live in a day and age where we're digitally distracted from each other. So, yeah, okay, cool, and we forget to make people feel seen and heard. But when you're in a room and you're not just trying to pitch someone, but you're thinking like, how do I speak their language? It matters and it makes a difference. So the analogy I tell people is I was a horrible traveler when I was a kid, and that was everywhere I went, they should speak English. And if they don't, well, I'll just speak English louder. That's what people do. And when I learned basic phrases in someone's language, please, thank you, good morning, good afternoon, when I tried to speak their language, they tried to speak mine. It's the ultimate sign of respect. We just haven't been taught how to do that. We instead were taught the golden rule, which is treat people the way I want to be treated. But you're more auditory, you're more visual. So I need to treat you individually.
Right.
So even if we're selling, let's say I want you guys to buy my course. For you, I'm going to talk about, you should hear what people say about the course. It's absolutely amazing. When I'm talking to you, wait till you get in and you see what the course material is and how fast when you see these pictures you can do it. I'm selling the same course, but I'm talking to them as individuals instead of just about my product.
So you recommend when we're talking sales, maybe through social media, and we're not talking to an individual, to utilize all 3 terminology to be
Yes.
able to hit an auditory, visual, or
And kinesthetic, right?
And kinesthetic language.
Yeah, so
And don't we tend to just use our own?
we do.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And we're accidental narcissists. It's
Yeah.
kind of like,
Accidental.
like when I'm
As long
talking-
as it's not intentional,
Well,
we're
that's
good.
right. It's like when somebody's talking time zones, don't you automatically think of yours? We don't stop and go,
Right.
what time zone are you located in?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we're accidental narcissists to a
Yeah.
degree. Because I'm visual, I think in terms of visual. So I always want, what did I do when I got, you should see the sphere because my room last night.
Yeah.
I'm a visual person. You may have wanted to hear about the sphere in my experience, right?
Right.
Because you're auditory.
Yeah.
For you, it's more straight to the point. Why are you telling me this story? So it's all different people that you're talking to. But yes, to answer your question, in all of your social media, your marketing, advertisements, everything, you need to have all 3 because you don't know who's reading it. And that's when we started doing this for government documents or responses for a proposal. was because you don't know who's going to do it. And let's say that there is a way, and this is what I teach is, I teach my students to go look up people on LinkedIn and personalize it for that person. But you need to add in the other two, because I may give it to you, but he may be the decision maker, or you may be the decision maker, and I don't know that. So if I only put in auditory, I'm like, aha, I've got her, I'm going to win this piece of business. And then it
If I
gets
pass
to
it
you
off
two.
to somebody else,
It's lost.
Missed the mark.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know that it is decoding the face,
Right.
but the neck is visible too. Do you
Yes.
ever look at the musculature of the neck, Adam's apple, anything like that?
Well, I try to make sure women don't have Adam's apples when I'm talking to them.
Very important point. So you are looking at that area.
Yes. But that would really be about it.
But outside of that, so it is
Yeah.
telling, but just not
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
way, for sure.
Which, by the way, though,
No,
like
it's
this,
interesting because when you think about the jaw, a lot of the jaw is going to impact the musculature of the neck.
but
So
also, by the way, this is very useful for those of you that are in the dating world.
Yes.
All of this is incredibly useful. You can tell
you
a lot
have a
about
dating
the person.
program too.
I
Tell
do.
us that.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to jump to. Is one of the things I'm super proud of that I've witnessed with you is when I met you. I think when I met you, you might have still been in your
I was
JOB, right?
yeah.
Like you were still locked in that. And
Did you say
now,
JOB?
Yeah, he was.
Why
in,
is it like a bad word?
Oh, it is.
Yeah, he was
No,
in
it
his 9 to
is.
5, right? He was
Absolutely
held
was.
back. He wasn't
Locked
able to
in.
be expressing his
Yes.
his gifts as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Right.
And now I've watched and witnessed, your gifts as an entrepreneur, sharing that with the world. Tell people, like, what are some of the ways that they can? Because this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Everybody needs this. You speak on stages, so
Right.
if you put on an event, highly recommend having Brian
Yes.
come out and speak at your event. Everybody will love it because they get
won't
to
leave him
have
alone
the game experience,
afterwards.
right? They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
whoa, what?
man.
Yeah.
So have him at your event, but so many people like, I don't put on events. What am I listening to?
Right.
Well, one, you get tremendous benefit, but tell us all the ways that the world can interface with you now.
Everything is subtle skills. And to your point, yes, when I started speaking, I was very unhappy in a job. I sold my soul for $50,000 when I took a raise to go to a regional vice president, and I hated every day. And speaking was my outlet. And I just started sharing information because I wanted to teach the world something that helped me. And that's the biggest thing is there's so many introverts out there. And actually, I'm going to change it for a second now. I have a daughter, and she's growing up in a world where kids don't know how to talk to kids. Great with this, but now it's like we have to teach people how to look at people again. Like putting you on the spot, and I know you don't have a microphone. Do you feel seen and heard from just sitting here for a minute?
Not 60%, 50%.
Yeah.
So, like, should I leave right now?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, once we told you what your face
In the
said,
process,
you felt
in
seen.
the process,
you
did you
felt
feel
seen as a person,
seen and
right?
heard as
Yeah,
a person?
100%.
Yeah, and that's what gives the people the ability to do is to build connections and rapport with other people again. To your point, I had a job when I was doing it, and so I couldn't do Brian Galke because if you Googled my name, it wouldn't be good. So I started Subtle Skills, which I thought the most amazing name until you realize nobody can spell subtle.
Yeah.
So I now have Decode the Face, which will re-go to my website. To your point, during the pandemic, all my friends reached out like, hey, everybody got on a dating app. And what is a dating app? It's a pretty picture with a bunch of lies down below. Right?
Yeah.
And so I created lookingforloveandallthewrongfaces.com for people just to figure out on dating apps, what do you have in common and what's different? So to use the analogy we talked about before, you're more auditory, I'm more visual. So when my wife and I were married, she would want to go to the store, and I'd want to text her everything I wanted because I'm visual. And she's like, can you just tell me what you want? But if I'm going to the store and she told me what she wanted, I'm coming back with like 2 of the right things and 5 of the wrong things.
Of course.
So we found a system that is, if I'm going, text me. If you're going, tell her.
Yeah.
So it's learning, not everything has to be the same. It's just, how do we meet in the middle? And is that something you want to do the rest of your life? So using examples of what we talked about before, if you're dating somebody who's got really full eyelids, or you're going to go date somebody who has really full eyelids and you don't have any, well, then they may smother you and you may need your alone time. And if you need your alone time, this person may feel rejected. But if you can have those conversations up front and you don't go, by the way, on our first date, your eyelid tells me this. But you can look and you can say, hey, look, I do a lot of things alone. It's just that's how I recharge. It's what I need to do. Yeah. If a lot of times if I'm going doing things and you want to go, you can just ask to go with me and I'll be fine. And I'll also try and make an effort to include you to going on these things. So it gives you the power to make those choices ahead of time, because what's cute in the beginning is what you want to strangle somebody for, just not that much later.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's so important because I know it's not just love relationships, it's business partnerships, it's
Absolutely.
friendships. I mean,
Yeah.
that translates into every kind of relationship that you will have.
Yes.
It's important to understand those things about somebody else.
It's learning to look at people you've known your entire life a completely different way.
Yeah.
Like people who used to interrupt me, I used to think, how rude,
Yeah.
how dare you? But if they have eyebrows that are close to their eye, like these two guys, then it's trying to help me get to where they are as fast as they
They're
got
trying to
there.
understand and speed up the trend.
They're
yeah,
wanting to
the
help you,
conversation.
not be rude and insult you. So I say with the face comes grace, because when you can look at someone, you just know that's the way they're wired.
I want to go back and look at like my mom, like
Yeah.
look at, I wonder how much you can understand around parenting and
Yes.
conversations that you have, connection, like the way that you were raised just by looking at somebody's face.
You
too.
absolutely can. Like I'll tell you, combination. Well, you guys have seen this live on stage. The reason that I end presentations by bringing people up and kind of like what you guys did today is because it all sounds great until you see it being done. But if you really watched what happened, is people got a little bit taller at the end because they felt seen and heard. And there was one girl on stage who she had super rounded eyebrows. It was Erica. Remember, she had a
Oh,
thinner
yeah.
upper lip,
Yep.
and she had a smaller rounded chin. But she had a deep, deep verbal affirmation line. And I said, Erica, I know you want to help everyone, but that thinner upper lip, you're not telling people what you're doing for them, then they can't thank you and you're never going to get that little line met. And she burst into
The
tears.
tears, I remember.
And I used to freak out and step away from people, but then you're leaving people in the moment. So when that happens, what you do is you sit with them in the moment because they finally feel seen and heard for who they are. And they didn't know how to communicate that. Now they do. And that's why she burst into tears at that event. And that's what happens is we have an idea of who we think we are, but we don't feel seen by others. And the idea that this exists in the world, and that if it wasn't for Henry VIII, we would all know this, is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's absolutely
I love that
crazy.
you're pushing the work forward. It's so
Yeah.
important what you're doing. So
Well, and it's
Yeah.
places like this, like you guys giving me the opportunity. You guys took Steve Sims' word. Actually, I met you for 5 minutes because you were sick the first time that I went to Steve's
Yeah.
event. But you and I got to talk,
Yep.
and you guys reached out a few months later, but you'd never really seen me talk. And you were willing to take that chance. And that's why I love hanging out with you guys. And so,
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say, you almost look like you have a line, but I'm not sure if it's the beard or not.
It's more the beard, but I
It's
probably
the
do
beard.
have I probably do have
I was
one,
going to
yeah.
say, well, thank you for what you do.
Well, I'll tell you what's a crazy one is I used to have a smaller chin, and the criticism was like screaming at me all the time. So over time, my chin is even expanded just a little bit.
Wow.
But that's why some people will grow out their beards too. Like if you think about the movie 300, that's why they grow those big badass beards, was because they want to be, handle adversity and everything else. But if you see somebody with a small chin, then you have to deliver news delicately. So like the sandwich technique, something of that nature.
Yeah.
So you can look at people and figure out if they've got a really strong chin, give them the information right away. But if they've got a smaller chin, okay, let's slowly walk into this because it'll sound like shouting. So it's learning all these different ways to interact with people.
I got to tell you, what would be a really great program too is how to, like a leadership program, how to
Yes.
motivate employees
Yeah.
and communicate with employees to get them to, feel comfortable doing things, because that's important too. Some people can take constructive criticism and some
Right.
can't, and you don't want to just guess.
Yes.
Right.
That's just it. It gives you a leg up.
Yeah, it really
to
does.
understanding people. So one of the things we talked about, you just brought in somebody from the other room. But what we do is you go look up people on LinkedIn first. And why LinkedIn? Because you don't know how old that photo is, but you want to know who am I looking for. Then if they have social media, go there. And that's when you start figuring out how do I present to the person instead of pitch my product. And that can be anything. Your product sometimes is where I want to go to dinner. Are they going to go out on a date? You name what it is. But when you learn, if you've ever read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, in that book, what it is he was the doctor. He went through a concentration camp. And what he found is the prisoners who were able to survive that time were the ones who said, I want to see my wife again. I want to see my kids again. So we can do more when we try to help others than just being self-sufficient and taking care of ourselves.
Love it.
Subtleskills.com. I don't know
Yes.
why you didn't get physiognomy.com.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Because you can't even say it. I know. It's great.
Physiognomy.com. Don't go there.
Physiognomy? I don't think that's how
I
you
sit
say
up
it.
at night.
Physiognomy.
Sometimes I'm like, I wonder if this website's available. So let me tell you the simplest one that I ever got. I'm like, you want to get a copy of the cheat sheet? They're like, yes. I'm like, go to getthecheatcheat.com.
Oh,
How that was available.
So good.
How
That is
was
a great
available.
website.
Yeah, so that's how people get the eyebrow cheat sheet is getthecheatsheet.com.
So go to
I wonder if
getthecheatsheet.com.
physiognomy.com is available. You
Nobody
go
would
to-
ever
Nobody would
spell.
be, they can't spell subtle. Now they're going to have to
Yeah.
spell physiognomy.
Oh, there's no way in the world. It would get
No.
zero
He
traffic.
used that on special occasions, like certain moments where he'll be like,
Health practitioner.
All doctors.
A
I was
health
gonna say, all
practitioner. Yeah, when you're speaking at a health conference. Yeah.
Physiognomy.com.
Yeah.
People will be like, oh, dang, what
I
is
would
that?
never get an email. if
Yeah.
it was Brian.
Subtle Skills,
Yeah.
S-U-B, has a B in it, subtleskills.com. Make sure that you get plugged in with Brian Galke, a gal
That's right.
holding a key.
Yes.
Hope that he absolutely blew your minds today on the None of Your Business podcast. You know what I was thinking too, I want to we are in discussions to have Brian drop into the Adaptable Entrepreneur membership group
Yes.
and do a training. Maybe we should ask him to do that. We'll have you do a training on leadership.
Yes.
And
That'd
then
be
we'll
really
give you
great.
back the content and then you
Yeah.
can
Use it however you
yeah.
desire.
I also want to drop one little nugget, what I learned today, because you know that we do a lot of teaching on AI, how to utilize AI in our business. And I was thinking, listen, all of your content, emails, blog posts, social media posts, you need to go back and tell AI it needs to hit these 3 triggers.
Yeah, that's
because
good.
whenever I'm writing, and I'm going to write it for me, but then I can go back and say, listen, I need for you to trick this out because I've got to hit the auditory, the visual, and the kinesthetic,
Correct.
all in this post, email, whatever it is that
Yes.
you're making. So hopefully that's my
That's good.
takeaway. That
That's a
was
good
really
takeaway.
good because I'm probably really guilty of that myself. So excellent. Thank you so much, Brian, for being on the None of Your Business podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. All right, folks. I mean, I always say this, but I really literally don't know how we're going to top this. Next, what do we have? What are we going to do? I don't know what we could have. You guys will just have to come back next week to find out. Don't miss it right here on the None of Your Business podcast.